Hello and welcome to Raider HQ After Dark. I'm your host, Raider. And in this video, I've kind of tried to record this a couple times, and each time I keep going down a rabbit hole. So I'm going to try to keep myself very focused on what I want to talk about. So, a lot of communications that I've been having with veterans is I'm hearing a lot of either concerns for or actual instances of I went to an increase exam and now they're reducing me. They either didn't take my evidence into consideration or they threw my private DBQ in the trash and sent me to a VA examination. And the examiner, was cross eyed and, you know, uh, was very, very, not good at their job. And they ended up reducing me. And it wasn't true or factual. So, in this video, what I kind of want to talk about is I just want to give a general overview as to what a reduction looks like. So, this is not going to be a complete um, telling of the proposal to reduce action. I'm going to be touching upon the topic. Ideally, if you want to stick around, the main thing, to watch to the end, the main thing I'm going to be talking about is, what happens if you get one of these and what are your ways to fight it? Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll try to muddle through this because it's going to be a little bit challenging, guys, because um, this topic is very, very complex and it's very situational. So like let me give you an example of situational. So let's say that you have 5 different conditions that you claimed increases for, and one of them is going to be reduced. Let's say your knee perceivably got better, went from 30% down to 10%. Okay. Now, in that circumstance, there's a couple of things that the rater should be looking for. And that means that the veteran should also be looking for it. When they reduced me from 30% down to 10%, was the 5-year rule in play? Which means, have you been, granted at 30% for 5 years? If so, then they cannot use that single examination to reduce you. They have to have more than one because it's not the single examination demonstrates improvement. But what the terminology is for is sustained improvement. So they need more than one examination to demonstrate sustained improvement. And they cannot use your medical records to show, like, the absence of treatment can't count as sustained improvement. They have to have examinations to show it, or diagnostic tests like your cancer is in remission, right? Like something that is undebatable. Anytime that there's like, I'm not a medical doctor, I don't know, then they have to go get an examiner to say whether or not there's been improvement. The rater cannot do that. So in this instance, that's something that you as the veteran can arm yourself with is, have I been granted for 5 years or more? Because if they try to reduce you for this one particular exam and you've had, like, let's say 30% for your knee for over 5 years, you can request a hearing, as part of this particular process. And you can say, hey, look, you guys haven't shown sustained improvement. Now, what'll happen is that'll cause them to just turn right around and send you for a new exam. So you would need to front load your evidence to be able to either get the 30% back, show the evidence that you have to the examiner, whatever you need to do to, if there isn't sustained improvement, show that. Now, and I'm kind of rambling here, there's 2 different types of reductions. Okay. There's this kind where we propose to reduce. And this only happens when the reduction itself is going to change your overall percentage. Okay. Like let's say you're 90% right now and you go for that knee exam. It's part of your, it's part of your claim for increase. And the examiner gives you symptoms that whenever we put it into VBMS, it goes from 30% down to 10%. Now, let's say the act of going from 30 to 10% actually, let's say that it doesn't change your overall percentage. You're still at 90%. Well, that would qualify for what we call just a reduction. And we would be able to reduce you from 30 to 10% because you'll still stay at 90%. We don't have to go through this long drawn out process. The rater can, like, this process is only for whenever it changes your combined percentage rate. So sometimes this throws veterans off because the rater, if it doesn't change the overall percentage, the rater will just reduce it right then and there. They don't have to send out any of this stuff. They don't have to go through this, 60-day period. They can just reduce it. And it throws a lot of veterans off because they want that period, that 60 days, to be able to fight something. So let me find the important button here. So what do you do if you're just reduced, right? Just reduction. There's no formal process. They just took you from 30 to 10. You're still at 90%. But let's say that you have evidence showing that your still should be 30%. Well, I would do another increase at that point in time, is how I would do it. Especially if the evidence of the 30% wasn't of record. Like, let's say it's in your private medical records and you didn't give them that to the VA, an increase exam would be the better option. Now, some of you might go, well, wait a minute. Why don't I do a supplemental claim and fight that decision because I had evidence in my chart and whatnot? The reason why you wouldn't want to do that is because it requires a lot more evidence as part of the supplemental claim process in order to fix something that will not change your overall combined evaluation. So that's the main nugget for fighting a reduction, is that because it going back up to 30 will not change anything on your overall percentage, doing an increase is just fine. There's no effective date to win. There's no need to worry about fighting for an earlier effective date for reinstatement of your 30%. Now, that might change if you have other things going on to where you go from 90 to 100%. And, by that 30% being restored back to its original denial date, then yeah, there's value added in that, doing a supplemental claim. But let's say that there is no other increases that you had. The reduction itself will not benefit from doing a supplemental claim. Just doing an increase and showing the new evidence is better. So that's the first time. Reductions in which the overall combined doesn't change. That's the first type of, proposal of reduction. So the second type is when you actually have a change in your combined evaluation. Let's stick with the analogy of the knee. The knee goes from 30% down to 10%, and that switches you from 90% potentially down to 80%. Well, because there's an adverse action, right? And it says it right here. Because there's an adverse action, the VA gives the veteran a 60-day, and I'm going to say 60 days, but it's not really 60 days. They're going to give you a period of time in which to present evidence to show that the VA was wrong. So they're going to propose this by sending you the proposal, but they won't take effect until, 31 days after-ish. So let me see here. These are the types of adverse actions that require the proposed rating. So this is what I was talking about, and this is basically all I'm going to be talking about. For the most part, is whenever the overall evaluation is reduced, the overall combined evaluation is reduced, but you still have like other situations where reduction in pension will be another instance where you get sent a decision letter that says, "Hey, we propose to reduce." It'll have a lot of kind of dates and times on it. It will have a lot of like, you will go from this percent down to this percent. It'll take effect on this date. Um, or you'll be reduced and your monetary value will go down. The proposal to reduce letters themselves have to be accurate to a degree, just telling you and informing you. So this is also a good, like I know I talked about this on a few videos. Having your address updated so you're receiving your award letter notifications is important, because you don't, oftentimes if you miss this window, bad things can happen. So, severance of service connected conditions are another one that have to be proposed. Even if it's the most egregious fraud, there has to be a proposed period of time. Even though the outcome might be destined, right? There's no, we still have to give the veteran the opportunity. Termination of ancillary benefits. If you don't meet criteria anymore for, say, SMC S1 statutory housebound, we still have to notify you and give you time and to show evidence to the contrary, potentially. Determinations of incompetence, that's another one. Reduction or termination of benefits where erroneously awarded because of an administrative error. So these are clear and unmistakable errors. So if we're going to reduce you, we give you a 60-day window in some of these. Like this one's very potentially winnable. You can win it back. Pension also. Severance, potentially you can win that back. But for a clear and unmistakable error, the outcome is predetermined, right? Like if they found a clear and unmistakable error, you can't talk your way out of that. They're just going to take the action, and they're giving you a period of time to acclimate to your new percentage. So now I had said something really weird here that I'm sure that the comments section will be juicy for. And that's whenever I said that they don't actually give you a 60-day window. They give you a 30-day window. And let me just kind of elaborate on what I mean by that. So typically, whenever you get a proposal to reduce, they say in the proposal letter, hey, look, if you want to disagree with the adverse action that we're taking, go ahead and request in writing a hearing, request for a hearing, a formal hearing, to be able to basically tell your side of the story as to why you disagree with the proposed adverse action. Now, if you should do that, if you should request a hearing within the first 30 days following the notification, then the VA will not reduce they won't take the action of reducing you while we're waiting for this to pan out. If you take longer than 30 days, then they can potentially take the action and reduce you and not give you the window of time. It's kind of a weird thing. But let's go into this. So compensation cannot be reduced or otherwise adversely affected unless the beneficiary has been notified of the proposed action and has provided a period of 60 days in which to submit evidence showing the adverse action should not be taken. And here's all the CFRs and stuff like that. Do not prepare a proposal rating decision when assigned effective date or evaluation will not reduce the total amount. So here's what I was talking about. Like, this is the reduction version of it. It says do not send that proposal if the adverse action will not reduce the combined evaluation. So that's the second type. Let me go here. The adverse action proposal period is the control period between the date of notice that it's mailed off and the minimum period proposed action of 60 days. Legally, it's like 65 days. Yeah. So legally, the beneficiary has to respond 60 days to respond, but we shouldn't take any actions until the 65th day. And then we talk about take no adverse action until the 65th day specifically. You have to specifically, do not take action unless the beneficiary specifically asks that the award be reduced or suspended to minimize any possible overpayment. submits documentation confirming earlier oral information which is sufficient to justify the proposed adverse action. This would be like if the veteran concedes that, hey, look, I don't want to be overpaid for this. I know it was wrong. Just take it now. And I've had some individuals who have had cancer that for whatever reason they're like, I don't have cancer anymore. Even though they were allowed 6 months following, they just didn't want the money anymore. So I've seen this. It's kind of rare, but that's the situation. Um, the first day, the adverse action proposal period is the date of notice of proposal mailed. The date of letter is the date of the mailing. I mean, this is just dry stuff. If the adverse action proposal period time limit expires on, now this is important, a workday, then exclude the first day of the adverse action proposal period and include the last day. This is something authorization would need to do. I don't really get it. If it's on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, include the next work day following the weekend or holiday. So I know that some people have had this, and I'm going to tell you right now, this particular manual reference for calculating the adverse action date, not a lot of VSRs get in here. So what does this mean? It means if it expires on a Saturday, you should get the Monday, right? Or if the holiday's on a Monday and that's the date it was supposed to expire and it's a holiday, you get one more day. So that can be helpful to you guys. I don't know if that's a very important situation, but the date in which the adverse action can happen, because some people think, believe rightfully that they should get like a 66th day if they, have Saturday, Sunday, or a holiday. And then we talk about extending the adverse action period. It may be extended actually. So this is kind of important. If you need to develop for evidence, just tell the VA that. Submit a 4138, a VA form 21-4138, and tell them that you need to actually get your evidence. And it's unreasonable to have the VA, you know, change your outcome. You can't get into a doctor's office in 30 days a lot of the time. So we talk about the hearing, that's the formal hearing. If the hearing is requested within 30 days following the release of a notification of the proposed adverse action. So this is what I was talking about where I said people are going to lose their minds. We will continue the veteran at their current evaluation if they tell us, hey, look, I want to do a hearing and I need to gather more evidence. If they do that within 30 days, we will extend the period of time. So that way the veteran gets paid at their current rate for longer while the veteran is allowed to get evidence. If they do it on the 31st day, we will not extend that. We will take that action, even if the claim goes further than the 60 days. Like, let's say the fact you do have a hearing, let's say on the 59th day, you say, yes, I would like a hearing. Well, guess what? You're going to be reduced. The claim will remain open type situation, but that's the way it should work. So, but if you do it within 30 days and you say, hey, look, then the adverse action proposal period can be extended longer to help you and facilitate you to get the evidence that you need. This is important, guys. The takeaway here is if you have an adverse action that is done, always, and I'm using an absolute and I don't like to, always request for a hearing within 30 days. I know you get 60 days, but please hear me on this. We can extend the proposal period. So you get to keep your money, your rate, your evaluation, your percentage. You get to keep it while the claim processes. And while you gather evidence, while you submit evidence, while you document evidence, while you're going for exams, like all that, you get to keep that percentage. And I can't stress this enough. It's something that you guys don't know. I mean, but it's right here. If a hearing is requested within 30 days of the adverse action, then we can extend the time period that you are paid at your current rate. A hearing for a proposal for incompetency, yeah. Um, remailing of the proposed adverse action when the notice is returned due to incorrect address. So this is a fail-safe, but I always tell you guys keep your address updated, but it won't hurt you. But we have to have a current address is subsequently identified. So, like, you should keep your address updated through the VA medical center that you have, because oftentimes the VSR will go to the VA medical center's current address for you and they'll use that in lieu of. But you should always update your address everywhere with the VA, just in case. To allow time for an administrative action or rating decision. So, yeah, we can kind of extend the period of time if there's extenuating administrative. But anyway, that's about all I got for you today on this one. I thought I had pulled up different evidence, but it's fine because this is just an introduction to it. But so let me summarize kind of what I was talking about in that, there's two different types of reductions. There's reductions that do not change your overall combined percentage, in which they can be instantly reduced. Unless there's extenuating circumstance, you resolve that by getting new evidence and doing an increase exam. There's the type of proposed adverse action, which has many different potential causes of it. But a proposed adverse action, you will get a rating decision in the mail that talks to you specifically about the reduction. Now, what it doesn't do is it doesn't tell you why you're being reduced. I mean, it sometimes will list the symptoms that they found, but depending on what your disability is, sometimes that can be a little hard to understand, like mental health. Some of the symptoms don't line up well. Like, you could have a hodgepodge of just different symptoms and somehow you're 70%. You can have similar symptoms, but they're just in a different, they're not the same. You can have different aspects to it and you're 50% rather than 70%. So sometimes you might need to go to a VSO. I know that some people have been just hammering on the VSOs lately, but it's my only intervention for this. Go to the VSOs and have them pull up the historical DBQ and the current DBQ and contrast them. See what's different about them. And that'll help you, just to be honest, that will help you in what evidence you need to gather to support it. Now, sometimes, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes things just get better. Okay. And it's just the way of things. And sometimes examiners are, not good at their job and they miss something. Those two are not the same thing. If your condition got better, then it got better. Be thankful on your health, be sad about the payment. But I'm mostly speaking about, if you have a valid evidence, if you have valid symptoms that warrant you to be at the next higher evaluation, then I've pretty much given you kind of a general overview as to how you would go about, discussing it. Now, this is going to be a ramble. So sorry about that, guys. It's kind of, I'm still trying to get healthy from yesterday, but anyway, that's about all I got for you today on this one. Raider out.